Cool, so a bit of a recap of the sound of the movement up until this point. So it's been 5 years with the first Quibber's Revolution music being released in 2015. So just looking back at the journey of all the projects and all the concepts has been really epic. So starting with Thunder.
Hey yo, New Zealand, Equippers Church, you got one day, Thunder's coming.
Thunder was the first album back in 2015. And I remember the concept about it coming out of us thinking and talking about John the Baptist, because the Bible described John the Baptist as thunder in the desert. And I remember that really just resonating with me as a young kind of 18, 19-year-old writer a few years before Thunder came out. I just was fascinated with that statement, thunder in the desert. And I felt like that was us in a way, because, you know, thunder is just a loud, deafening crash of noise. And if you look at the Revolution movement, if you look at the sound that was developing back then, I really felt like that was us. We were a loud, energetic sound that, you know, it said that John the Baptist was thunder in the desert that prepared the way for Jesus. And I really felt like us as the sound of a movement, and as a movement, we were just a loud, energetic bang, a crash, and that was representing our sound. But the purpose of that sound was to prepare the way for Jesus. And so that was a concept for the first album. It was called, Thunder, and that's what it was all about. And then fast forward 2 years to 2017 with Hands High. In the 2-year period between Thunder and Hands High, we found that all the songs we've been writing were just real faith statements. And we remember I remember all the lyrics we were writing. So my response will always be to praise. My response will always be to praise. No matter what comes. And every other song that came after that was just a strong faith statement. And if you look at the imagery of Hands High, when people have their hands up, when people have their hands high, it's an action that has so much meaning behind it. People lift their hands high if they're protesting something, if they're supporting at a sports match, or if they so they lift their hands high if they're making a statement. But often, that's in protest or for some sort of cause. But we felt like the statement we were making was a statement of surrender to God. And so it was called Hands High because it was a faith statement. It was bold. It required a lot of faith to say something like, my response will always be to praise, no matter what comes. And so that was why that chapter of the sound, EQR2, Hands High, was all about faith statements. We were young, making bold declarations before most of us had experienced life and the pressures of life. And so looking back on it in that chapter of the sound, those songs have been really crucial and are still sung in the movement today and at our church and other churches as well. And it was awesome to see it move from just this energetic loud bang that prepares the way to Jesus to making statements of faith and really maturing in our understanding of Christ and what our mission is, and into EQR2, which was Hands High. And then not too long after Hands High, in the beginning of 2018, was EQR3. It was Colors.
Awaken my senses, you found me when colors fade.
And the key inspiration behind that chapter of music was in the book of Matthew, where Jesus says, I have come that you may have life and life to the full. And we really wanted to write songs that just captured the life, the joy, and the celebration that it is to be a Christian and to know Christ. And out of that came the song Senses, which the key line of that is, I've never felt so alive.
I've never felt so
and it just celebrates the joy and the vibrancy we find in Christ. And that chapter of the sound is just fun. It's so bright. It's full of hope, it's full of life, even just the sounds are so joyous, and the artwork is just colorful, and that's why we called the EP Colors, because it was just a joyful, colorful celebration of the life we have in Jesus Christ. And it's cool looking back at that as the third chapter. And then a few years after that, moving into the fourth chapter, so 2020, we released the Forever EP in April. And looking back at that, it's been really cool because the key line was from the song Future, where it's in this moment and forevermore. I'll praise you, I'll praise you. And we just felt that really summed up the chapter of that sound really well. It's a declaration, and it's called Forever because all the songs and all the sound and the chapter really captures just a declaration that God, I'm gonna live for you. I'm gonna worship you forever. And it's a really bold, daring statement, and that's why the artwork kind of reflects that in the bold, kind of yellow, splashing out of the black and white for that song. So yeah, looking at those chapters, going from thunder, a huge sound, thunder in the desert that prepares the way for Jesus, going into just a chapter of faith statements. Maturing in our faith and then the sound and the songwriting into this colorful life with colors in 2018, and then going into more bold statements that will live for God forever, into this chapter of clarity. Being the fifth chapter of the sound of the movement, and a lot of us had been writing for the movement for many years since 2015, and this was definitely the most daring project, but I love that all the messages were just really simple, even simpler than the first album we did, which coincidentally was a concept album, which is pretty crazy to do as young writers, but to be here in 2020, 2021, to be releasing something that is just all about simple messages. It starts with Jesus, you're everything I need. And it ends on, I don't need a reason to praise you. This is my state of mind. And I feel like the whole chapter just really brings clarity to our faith. And clarity also represents us as kind of writers of songs for a movement. There's clarity around that. We've been doing this for 5 to 7 years. We know why we're doing it. We know what the purpose is. We write music to connect people to Jesus, and specifically in the movement and with the Crippers Revolution, the mission is to write music to fuel the movement and to connect young people to Jesus. And so yeah, it's been really cool looking back from 2015 to 2020, 2021 now, in these 5 chapters of sounds of the movement. And I pray that all the music is blessing you. But yeah, it's been super exciting from us. So yeah, cheers. That's 5 years of the sound.